Welcome everyone, StealthyShiroean here, and today I'm bringing you my review of the Humble Choice bundle for August 2025. Coming off of last month's low, I'm happy to report that Humble has knocked it out of the park for this month. There were several that I knew about and wanted, and some others I didn't know that I wanted. Let me know what you think of this month's bundle in the comments below. Be sure to check the timestamps for specific games, and stay tuned for my final thoughts in the end. Okay, let's get to the review. Starting off the bundle, we have Warpips, a sort of tower defense game that is more aptly described as the tug-of-war strategy on its Steam page. Players take the role of some sort of military outfit and have to send out units to destroy the opposing enemy's base. All the while, they send units towards your base to do the same. Throughout a match, the enemy will have certain lulls and periods where they will mercilessly assault your defenses. Because of this, the player needs to properly assess when to defend or push, and when to spawn certain units. It's essential to wait for the right time to spawn a cluster of them, rather than trickling them out and having them get killed one by one. There is an endless mode and a quick battle, however I only played the main mode, which is Conquest. Each map is a series of contested territories that you'll need to attack in order to assault the enemy's main headquarters. Each territory has their own loadout of troops, so you'll need to plan accordingly for your own counter strategy. I played this on Sergeant difficulty, which I assume was normal, and found it relatively easy, and that's without really understanding any of the synergies. And that's the great thing about Warpips, is that it's incredibly easy to pick up and play. You can learn the mechanics fairly easily, but it will be mastering how to pair up your loadouts that will be the real challenge. I also liked how much variety there was with the different units, but also consumable options, such as firing off missiles, laying down smokescreen, or even manually controlling a defensive turret. I greatly enjoyed the game and definitely would like to play it again in the future.
The one I found.
Oh, cool. Wait, I want to go.
Return at night to speak to
Wildmender is a survival crafting game specifically centered around rejuvenating a dying world. And like any survival game, it's much better playing with friends. So Deckhead and I tackled this one together for our review, as well as an upcoming co-op flavor of the month video, so check that out on our Humble Talk channel if you'd like to see more gameplay. Anyway, you start off alone in the desert near a small spring of water. After a short tutorial explaining the survival basics, you set off to explore the world. Many of the things you'll find are new seeds to bring back and plant near your spring. Over time, the spring can expand and be upgraded. And although neither one of us thought to do this, you can also dig channels to spread the water and expand your arable land. Obviously, this is important to grow new plants, get new resources and food, and overall spread that greenery further.
It's letting me plant.
Oh, sorry, the dry one didn't work.
The world has a lot of ruins to explore and areas that seem to flourish at one point in time. The exploration seemed interesting because of the world, but I wish the spirits you found, or echoes of the past, conveyed just a bit more story. It was a bit too cryptic for me, but that seems intentional. However, when you find these spirits or scrolls of knowledge, they give you associated skill points and various skill trees. These skills can unlock new buildables that obviously expands the player's options. This one was surprisingly quite a bit of fun that I didn't really expect to have. I think to anyone who has played the Planet Crafter, then you'll probably find a similar dopamine drip here as you see your surroundings slowly change. The best way for me to describe Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip would be to describe it as a PG-rated Grand Theft Auto. You play as Terry, who just got his first taxi job. Well, a job that provided a car, but he didn't want to actually do the job. Anyway, now he could cruise around and try to figure out how to get that sucker into space. And that right there is probably enough to tell you the kind of writing you'll find here. Its quirky humor can make it endearing to some, or sound stupid to others. I think I'm somewhere in the middle of that. As far as the gameplay goes, well, once you get that car, you're essentially free to do whatever. There wasn't that much direction unless you happen to call 1 on your phone to talk to your friend. Or uncle, I guess, from what you later find out. He seems to be there to give the player a goal. Largely though, you're free to just explore and collect things. And collecting things really is the name of the game. Breaking things or digging holes for money, because why actually do the job you were hired to do? Then with that money, you can buy tools to do other activities with, presumably, and hats, because why not? There's also a bunch of these turbo parts scattered around everywhere all over town, which is what you need to upgrade the car to go faster. I have a hunch this is how you win the game and get Tiny Terry into space. Overall, it wasn't bad. I wasn't the biggest fan of the driving, but it's okay. Because of how short it is, about 4 to 5 hours, I can see myself maybe playing this with my daughter, but I'm really not entirely sold on this game. In a very similar vein to the last game is Lil Gator Game. The premise is like Tiny Terry's Turbo Ride, in that you explore and collect things to continue to explore and collect things. Here you're playing as a little gator trying to get the attention of his big sister, so she'll play with him as heroes questing to save the day. So, kid logic here. He decides to play the make-believe game he and his friends set up for her instead, so that she could see how much fun he's having and would want to play too. All across the island are cardboard monsters to smash, quests to complete, and loot to craft. It starts off simple enough, but somehow manages to keep my attention despite this. At first, you're just attacking these monsters and exploring around, but eventually you get different traversal abilities like shield sliding or gliding. And yes, it wears its Legend of Zelda inspirations right on its sleeve. However, there's some other fun things like the ability to ragdoll down a mountain. Throughout your adventure, you'll collect many different skins for your hat, sword, glider, and shield. It was a fun collectathon similar to the previous game, however, I liked the writing a lot more here. It was more relatable since it's literally a kid playing pretend. There's quirkiness to the writing here as well, but the dialogue felt believable instead of just awkward. Which I understand is exactly what Tiny Terry was going for, but I think I prefer Lil Gator more. Not to mention, I think this aligns perfectly with something I'd play with my daughter, so I imagine there's a high chance I'll be coming back to this one before the other. Let's School is a simulator where you design your own school, which is sort of similar to 2 Point Campus, that I instinctively want to say we got a little while ago, but in fact, it was back in January 2024. What we got here is something similar though, just with some of the over-the-top quirkiness turned down that usually comes with a 2 Point game. Anyway, you start by customizing your headmaster, and away you go, to a rundown school that probably would be better just bulldozing it and starting fresh. But this is a game, so after some clicking magic, it's good as new to start designing the perfect school. You do this by creating classrooms, setting up course schedules, and hiring and assigning teachers to these classes. However, it's obviously not quite that easy. You have the needs of both the teachers and students to attend to, such as making sure everyone has access to a bathroom or a cafeteria. Other elements are in play to ensure proper education for the students so they can pass their exams and achieve their aspirational goals. This being making sure your teachers are properly trained to tackle their assigned classes, ensuring you're offering the right courses for your students, etc. Not all teachers are actually teaching though, as they are also necessary for research, because for some reason we can't just offer an algebra course or construct a break room. You need to research it first. Obviously, it's a way to gamify the progress, and while it does hurt the believability, I got over it rather quickly. I quite liked my time with this, and I think if I ever decided to give some time to a simulator game in this style, then this one would be high up on my list. My Time at Sandrock continues the series from My Time at Portia with another farming sim style game. Except you're not a farmer. The My Time series takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where people are trying to rebuild society. So you play as a builder running your own workshop to help facilitate this goal. For all intents and purposes though, this is a farming sim game. I'm fairly certain there is some level of farming and animal caring, but there's also a lot of crafting and gathering resources. The world is open to exploration, with fighting being something more of a staple in these games than some other farming sim titles.
Now it's my turn.
Socializing also plays a big role in the game, and you can get to know the characters, romance some of them, and presumably the game has festivals or other town-wide events. I did like how many of the characters were voiced, but it felt weird when they weren't. Some characters seemed to be only voiced in cutscenes, others were voiced even when you just walked up to talk to them, and others didn't seem to have any voice lines at all. I wish it was more consistent. All in all, I don't really have much to say on the game. I really like what I played, but it's fairly difficult to talk about a game like this after only an hour, as I barely got into any of the systems. Not to mention there was a lot of talking just for all the setup and tutorial info. This was on my wish list though, because I know it would be a game I'd like to play. I just need to get around to playing my time at Portia first though.
Lady, if you hurt her,
You cling to love, a fool to the last.
The penultimate game, Banishers Ghosts of New Eden, really sunk its claws into me. After putting in just about 2.5 hours into the game and completing the prologue, I had to set it down in order to get on with this review. Now, granted, this was a game I've wanted to play since I first saw its showcase videos, so I knew I was going to vibe with it. You play as Banishers, Antea and Red, coming to the new world to help out their friend Charles Davenport, another Banisher who they find out to have died recently. A curse has befallen New Eden, the quaint little town they find themselves in, and it's up to them to figure out how to lift the curse and banish the ghost that is haunting everyone. Much of the gameplay revolves around talking to people and piecing together clues as to what happened, how might a spirit be laid to rest, whether compliantly or forced, and how this might affect the living. I got to see some of that in my time with the game, and I was impressed with the dialogue. All the voice actors do an excellent job, but what I really liked was how you could return to these people to ask them more questions as you discover new clues. It didn't really change how the investigation unfolded, but I appreciated the extra snippets of info and world building.
I did. But what of it? I'm not a banisher, I'm a man of God.
Charles Davenport was a man of God. One of the finest.
I wholeheartedly agree. I particularly admired his ability to integrate the many visions of the world, no matter how antagonistic they may be to our own.
The other part of the game is the combat because, as ghost hunters, you also have to know how to put one down if they don't want to go quietly. I wasn't nearly as impressed with this. It had the familiar trappings of an action-oriented RPG, but nothing that was that innovative. It felt serviceable, but maybe it gets better further into the game. I know there are skills, but I didn't get far enough into the game to see how any of that plays out. All in all, I can't wait to jump back into this. The 17th century setting, mixed with the ghost hauntings and seemingly sound character writing, really checks a lot of boxes for me, even if other gameplay aspects may not be up to snuff.
どうした？でもこの花、まさか何があった？なんか待ち伏せ。おい、ジョーカー、無事なのか？ジョーカー。確保！
And finally, for the headliner this month is Persona 5 Royal. After getting Strikers and Persona 4 Golden, I think we all knew it was only a matter of time. And well, here it is. And as is the case with any large RPG such as this, it's really hard to get a feel for these kinds of games in just an hour. What I can say, and has held true for all the Persona games I've tried, Persona 5 has a lot of style. The funky music, the beautifully animated anime-style cinematics, and the excellent voiceover does an amazing job to pull the player in. Here we play as Joker, a thief who's been captured and now is in the process of going down memory lane to a year prior to his arrest. You find him to be a high schooler whose life kind of fell apart because he decided to help out a lady who was being violently harassed by some thug. He got expelled, had to change schools, change living arrangements, and everyone seems to think he's some sort of punk because he now has a criminal record. The whole thing actually seems really harsh given that he seemed to have saved this lady. I'm wondering if maybe we're not seeing the whole picture, or maybe he really messed this guy up or something and it didn't show that to the player yet. Anyway, that's really about it. Once again, the game does a decent job to set up an intriguing plot, but I really didn't have enough time with any of it to tell you anything more. I like what I experienced though. Combat is another thing that, once again, I didn't have that much time with. There were a couple of scripted combat sequences, but they weren't really there to talk about the combat system. More so there to show you, yes, this isn't a visual novel. It is turn-based like the other mainline Persona games, and that's really all I can say. Despite all that, this is one that I'm sure I'd enjoy, if I can ever find the time to play it, and I'm happy to receive it since now I finally have the accompanying game to Strikers. Okay, let's wrap this up and see if this bundle is worth it or not. I based my rating solely on whether I thought the game was worth playing on about an hour or so of hands-on gameplay. Also, I'd be grateful if you could please give the video a like if you're enjoying it, and subscribe if you want to see more video game coverage in the form of reviews, first impressions, and of course, these humble choice videos every month. Overall, this was an exceptional month. Just from my wishlist alone, I had 4, which is always a great feeling, being Banishers, Persona 5, My Time at Sandrock, and Let's School. I'm lucky if I have at least one game off my wishlist, let alone half the bundle. That aside, I think this bundle stands really strong with the headliners, but also has a really good bunch of supporting games. It's always great when I feel like there are several in the bundle that I really want to get back to. Well, it's also bad since I know that I won't have the time for all of them, but hey, it's a good problem to have. I will say there are a few that could have really benefited from more than an hour with the game, so I'd be remiss not to plug the Humble Talk podcast I co-host with Deckhead, where we delve a bit deeper into each of the games and give our expanded and updated thoughts. Check the card above or link in the description. And with that, let's get into the recommendations. Alright, starting from the top, we have the must-plays for the month, which is Banishers Ghost of New Eden. Maybe this is slightly cheating since I did put well over an hour into the game, so I have more to go off of, but I think I'd safely put this here even at the hour mark. I really enjoyed the setting and tone of the overall game. Hopefully the other game mechanics get expanded and more interesting as I progress further. In my strong recommendations this month are Persona 5 Royal, My Time at Sandrock, Let's School, Lil Gator Game, Wildmender, and Warpips. Yeah, almost the entire bundle. I feel like Persona 5 could easily be in the must-play spot if I had a bit more time into it, but what I played, I was thoroughly impressed. My Time at Sandrock I think might be able to be placed in must-play as well, but I felt the intro maybe felt a bit slow to get to the meat of the game. Once again, I still enjoyed what I played though. Let's School was a fun, build-your-own-school simulator that I think fans of this style of game will like. Lil Gator Game has a lot of charm, and despite its simplistic gameplay, has enough to the game to keep you playing. Wildmender is a survival game that offers a cozy gardening experience with that satisfaction of seeing your progress grow, quite literally, and coupling that with survival exploration. Finally, Warpips was a lot of fun and something I haven't played in a while, so it was a nice breath of fresh air. I like the pick up and play ease coupled with the difficulty of needing to discover the right unit loadouts. And in my week recommendations, I placed Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. While very similar in style to Lil Gator Game, Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip's writing doesn't quite hit me the way I think the writers intended, but I do see the appeal here. Do you agree with my thoughts? What games, if any, are you looking forward to playing? Let me know what your thoughts are, or if there are any different recommendations you'd make in the comments below. I hope this video helped you in some small way, and if it did, then please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, or whatever it is you feel like doing. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.